Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Animal Artist Collective. If you are new to the channel or to this video, the Animal Artist Collective is a group of artists here on YouTube that Jennifer, Charlie, and myself founded to help raise awareness for animal conservation as well as bring light to emerging artists. We release videos every other month following a particular theme. This year, all of our themes are focused around habitats, and the habitat that we focus on is voted on by our viewers over on Facebook. In the last poll, the theme that won for this round of videos is wetlands, lakes, and rivers, and if you would like to vote on the next theme, you can head on over to Facebook and participate in that poll for the next couple of days following this video's release. As a community, we also would like to invite all of our viewers to participate in painting their own favorite animal that comes from this theme, in this case again, wetlands, rivers, and lakes, and go ahead and post them on social media, Instagram or Twitter, using the hashtag Animal Artists Collective. I had a really hard time deciding on what I wanted to feature in this video because wetlands are such a crucial habitat that there are just endless things that we could be talking about in terms of their importance for our planet. There were a couple ideas that I was playing around with, including the betta fish, which, even though we're used to seeing them in tiny little fish bowls in pet stores, are actually a wild species that exists in these little wetland habitats in Indonesia. And then there's also the Chinese alligator, which I had the pleasure of getting to kind of work nearby when I was a volunteer way back when I started my zoo adventures. They're an incredibly critically endangered species, and there's a lot on that regarding the way humans interact with crocodilian species. So there are so many options that I could have gone with, and both of those felt right, but they also felt really heavy, and I didn't want to kind of pull down the energy of how uplifting this series is supposed to be. And as usual, I was thinking about all these things pretty late at night within our own artists collective Facebook group that we talk to each other and bounce ideas off of each other, and I was going back and forth and asking for thoughts and opinions about what would be the best to talk about, and then all of a sudden it clicked. It's not an animal that you would necessarily associate with the wetlands, but it's one that I have a very personal story with, and that is the animal that I chose to share with you today. Today we're going to be looking at the African wild dogs, or they also go by the name of the painted wild dogs, or a variety of other names, but they are a species that lives in sub-Saharan Africa. While these dogs can live in a variety of habitats, the ones that I personally have a story with came from the Okavango Delta, which a delta is a wetland environment, and I thought we would go ahead and run with that. So let's first look at the Okavango Delta. That is a unique inland delta in the Kalahari Basin that doesn't flow out to an ocean or a sea. It's actually formed by seasonal flooding, which unfortunately happened to be at the exact time of year that I visited Africa over 5 years ago. During my trip to Africa, I was ecstatic to be able to see many of the species that I did, but the one on top of my list were the African wild dogs. I'd never seen this animal in captivity before, but from what I knew about it and what I had seen, they were just the most beautiful creatures that I could possibly imagine. I love the way that the tan, black, and white mingle on their coats, and it was a dream of mine to see them in the wild. Unfortunately, because of that seasonal flooding, they were one of the only species that was on my list that I did not get to see in Africa, but I still have a strong passion for them and want to tell you a little bit about that. The Okavango Delta was once part of another body of water called Lake Magatagati, which dried up during the Holocene. I did somewhat get to experience the Magatagati pens, which are still there today as salt flats. It is where I saw my first elephant herd. It was a bachelor group. It was super amazing to see them so close up. And we were also supposed to see meerkats here, but when this area floods, the salt flats turn into sludge and create impassable terrain. So I did get to see a variety of birds that happened to be in the area, but that was about it for this leg of the journey. 60% of the water in the Okavango Delta is consumed by the plants that are living there. Roughly 35% evaporates, and the remaining 5% or so either drains into the aquifer system or overflows into a nearby lake. Because the water in the delta does not primarily drain off, it's susceptible to becoming very salty and uninhabitable in the water itself for many species. However, the area around the delta is quite lush and full of wildlife. The delta is scattered with small salt islands, which often begin as termite mounds that later trees take root to and form over a mound of soil. The Marami Game Reserve is where I specifically was supposed to visit during my trip to the Okavango. It is a national park that was named one of the 7 natural wonders of Africa and is also one of the World Heritage Sites. Marami and the Okavango Delta as a whole are home to both permanent and seasonal wildlife, including but not limited to elephants, rhinos, giraffe, buffalo, wildebeest, zebra, antelope, hippos, lions, cheetahs, hyenas, leopards, warthogs, baboons, over 400 species of birds, and 70 species of fish. However, most notably for this particular video, it also homes one of the richest density populations of a subspecies of the African wild dogs called Cape wild dogs. Moving on to some information about the star of this video, African wild dogs are highly social animals living in very strictly organized packs where each dog has a specific job, ranging anywhere from a hunter to a babysitter of the pups of the group. The dogs rely heavily on each other to survive and are one of the only wild species to care for their sick and elderly. They live in packs of approximately 4 to 9 adults depending on where specifically in Africa they live, and a breeding dominant pair usually resides over the group. However, unlike many other social mammals, males can often reside in the pack that they are born into. Solitary living and hunting are extremely rare. They are the only extant members, and extant is the opposite of extinct, so the only ones that are still alive, that belong to the genus Lycaon? Something like that. And that differs from the other genus that we're probably more familiar canines coming from, which is Canis, that contains wolf, dogs, coyotes, and jackals. African wild dogs are diurnal, meaning they hunt and are awake mostly during the day, and they primarily hunt antelope as their primary food source. However, like cheetahs, although they have few natural predators, they are often bullied away from their kills or even attacked by larger animals such as lions and hyenas. Because of their small stature, they're unable to fight for those and often lose them in the altercations. African wild dogs used to range across Africa with over 500,000 dogs spanning 39 countries. However, today there are only 6,600 thought to remain left in the wild due to poaching, vehicle kills, mining, and logging as their main threats. This species naturally avoids inbreeding, however, due to their small and fragmented populations, their population is further endangered because of this. Like nearly every single conservation effort on the planet today, this is a multifaceted one with many moving parts that revolve around human encroachment and poverty, which means that there is no simple answer to solving this. When people cannot come by work and food by other means, often is the case that wildlife is then turned to hunt for food and income. Along with the Okavango Delta, Zimbabwe, which is kind of next door in the grand scheme of things, Zimbabwe is one of the last strongholds for African wild dogs, and it's also where the Wildlife Conservation Network has founded the Painted Dog Conservation Headquarters. The PDC works closely with the local people in the area to provide incomes from other sources aside from hunting and develop people's appreciation for the dogs and value conservation itself. Of course, as with all of our Animal Artists Collective pieces, this artwork is being sold to help conservation efforts. $100 from this sale will go to the support of African wild dogs and is awaiting you in my Etsy shop. For those of you who would like to make a smaller or larger donation, you can find links to the PDC in the video description. If you're waiting for prints, as a policy as part of the AAC, we do not allow sale of prints for these conservation-based pieces until either the original has sold or in 2 weeks' time, so you can go ahead and check back then. To round out this video, I just want to share my appreciation not only for African animals and their residents, and not only for wetlands, And not only for all of my amazing artist friends who are in this collaboration with me, but also to all of you for watching this video and for caring enough to want to know about these conservation topics. If you'd like to learn more about other animals in wetland habitats, there are many other artists, including 2 new guest artists that are joining us for this collaboration effort today. All of their links can be found in the description below, including Amy Howard Art and Kat from Meow Meow Kapow, who are our guest artists this month. If you are interested in being an official member of AAC, you can find a link in the description as well to our application. We review those applications after each round of videos, and we'll get back to you within a couple of weeks following this video. I would love for all of you who are watching this to go ahead and share something in the description below about an animal that you might have come across in a wetland, river, or lake situation that you have a new appreciation for based on your experience, or let me know what you think of African wild dogs and if they've touched you as well. Be sure to check out our Facebook page to vote on the poll for the next topic for the AAC videos. The real-time tutorial of this piece is available over on my Patreon page if you would like to see the entire painting come into existence. And as always, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to this channel if you'd like to see more content, and I will see you in the next video.